Welcome to Brand Bank Build, the podcast about how to build a strong and sustainable finance and marketing mindset to grow your business.
I'm Terra, and I'll talk about all things branding and marketing.
And I'm Karen, and I'll talk about everything finance and money. We'll overlap because we both have insights about how to grow a strong business. And together we have over 25 years of growing and advising businesses.
Let's get into today's episode. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, accounting, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions about your business. Karen, let's talk about pricing. This is huge.
Number one topic I discuss with clients on a day-to-day basis. I'm assuming you're the same.
Same. Yeah. How much should I charge? How do I determine my pricing? Like, it's so confusing.
Yeah, I know. And I think the frustration is felt because many clients come to me thinking that I'm going to give them a prescribed formula. With everything finance related, it's easy to expect, oh, you do this and this is your pricing. That should be your pricing. But all businesses are different. And because of the industries and the organizations that now exist in the modern day, the old sort of technical way of pricing it doesn't equate anymore. So there's no defined formula, which is really frustrating for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for us too, like we also struggle with how are my prices? Is this good? Is this good enough for me? Is this too high for them? Like, what do I do? And like with most things marketing, with this one, there's no right answer. It's so frustrating. You just have to test and figure things out. But there are some smart ways to go about pricing, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to reassure, we do have some ideas of how to do it. Not completely irrelevant. But there's just no defined formula for every business. It doesn't apply to all. So yeah, there's definitely ways to get to a point where you're confident in your pricing. And that's what we want to kind of talk about today, right?
Yeah. It's always a conversation. Like, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? How much money do you need to make? Think about your market. Like, how do you guide people through that conversation and help them get to the right pricing?
Well, for me, with most of my clients, ironically, I start with the marketing side of things. Ironically,
Yeah.
I start with the customer, and I get them to either speak to their customer about pricing or look at competitors in the market to understand roughly what people are expecting to pay for the equivalent service product, and therefore be able to start from the horse's mouth, if you will, start from the market to understand what the pricing needs to be, because we can come at it from the finance angle of this is my cost and this is what I want my revenue to be. But if that's sitting completely outside of where the market is, then it's just never going to land. Does that make sense?
It's a really strong approach because pricing is not only about the numbers, it's about the mindset. So if you think your product or your service isn't worth very much, or you want to be overly generous, or you think it should be free, I've worked with a lot of people who don't feel like they should be able to charge for the work they're doing. It's like, no, honey, you're providing value. You have to charge something. So looking at the market and seeing what other people are doing is so smart. And because it helps us kind of overcome or at least examine our money mindset. Like I
Mhm.
set prices for something and then I see a guy charging 3 times what I'm charging. And I'm like, wait a minute, I should charge more. What am I doing here? So, like, you can't just make it up in your own mind. You have to see what people are actually paying. Somebody's paying that guy 3 times what people are paying me. So, why shouldn't I charge more? So, yeah, looking at what's going on in the market is really smart.
Yeah, and it's not It's not by any way it's not gonna give you a definitive exact price by looking at the market. For example, one of my clients, she's a virtual assistant, but she's in the UK, right? I would rate her as not just a virtual assistant, but more like an online business manager for what
Yeah.
she actually does. However, she's new into this and she's working into a business of a virtual assistant. And there's discomfort on the level of what she charges because, as you and I both know, in the remote working world, there's virtual assistants from anything from like $5 an hour, for
Yeah.
example, in the Philippines, in different countries, which is, you know, no shame in the game. Great for them. But then it puts a lot of questioning around the client that I'm speaking about. How can I charge £25, £30 an hour or put together a pricing that people are going to be willing to pay when there's, there's various different virtual assistants, same title, um, different value, I would say. But that's the conversation that we went into. Like she's done the competitor research, but then it's about, okay, well, if there's such a range in the competition, that's not really giving me the information that I need. So what's the next step is get clearer on what your value is, get clearer on where you sit in that competitor market, and also where your ideal customers are and what they're willing to pay for the value that you bring, right?
Yep.
Because with her,
Exactly.
she brings such great value because she doesn't just do the tasks you prescribe her. She thinks through different ways to solve the problems that you have and brings added value to the business. Therefore, I'm trying to nudge her towards like online business manager or something along those lines,
Yeah.
just because it's easier to describe that value in the marketing side of things. But yeah, it's not just as simple as looking at the competitor market, but it is a
Yeah.
good starting point in my opinion.
Yeah. And with her, that's where the marketing, the branding, the communication comes in, where she has to say, I know your problems. I can help you overcome them. Here's the value that I bring. And to be able to communicate that so clearly that they say, yeah, this is worth the price. I don't want a button pusher. I want someone who's going to think more broadly. So that's where the branding and the marketing really plays a role, where you have to set yourself apart and explain and show them why you're worth what you're charging.
Yeah,
Mm.
100%. And knowing and explaining your value to the clients that you know are going to need you, right? Because if someone, for example, I don't think her particular client is someone that has everything figured out, right? She needs someone that hasn't figured out all their processes. If you've got your processes all figured out, you can hand that over to a virtual assistant for $7 an hour
Yeah.
and will probably work, right? You know exactly what you're going to delegate, but not all businesses are quite functioning in that way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, but when you can bring the problem solving value into it, then it's a different customer, it's a different market, it's a different thing. So yeah, that's definitely where the marketing, the offer, and defining your like ICP, like your avatar,
Yeah.
which I call it, your target audience is key for the price.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what else do we talk about when it comes to pricing? Like, do we do math? Or how are we figuring this out?
That would be my topic, right? My thing with the game. So, like I say, I don't recommend that my clients start with that to begin with, because if you look at the numbers directly without a context of where the market is, then it's somewhat irrelevant in my view. When we're talking service orientated businesses, it's really also very difficult for people to size up the math of it all. Like what
Yeah.
is my cost, right? My time, how much is my time worth? It becomes very difficult for people to put together, like, oh, if I'm say my fractional CFO services, for example, people could argue that my time is free. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like as in, hey, it's my business. I'm in it anyway. Whatever I charge is 100% profit, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, that's somewhere that people do price themselves is thinking, well, you know, everything that I make off of me is free.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I'm sitting here at my desk.
yeah,
I'll just
exactly.
help you. It doesn't work like that.
Right. But it means that sometimes really early in the game, when people do the math on the services side of things, they undercharge
Yeah.
because they're thinking, well, it's just my time that I'm covering. I don't have any tools. I don't have any products that I need to supply to people. It's just my time. And they value their time at quite little and they do the time per hour situation.
Mhm.
And that can be the math that adds up when in reality your time is worth money. Your time is very valuable, and it's not that simple that it's a time equation because you and I both have like over 12 years experience, like 25 years combined.
Yeah.
And so how is it different, right? The value of your time. So I think the math makes a lot more sense when it comes to products. Everybody understands pricing products based on
Yep.
math. Actually, I say everybody understands. Everyone in finance understands how to price a product. You take how much it costs you to make it, you add in how much profit you want to make, and then that's the price
Yeah.
unless that's completely out of where the market is and where your customer actually wants to buy it. But
Right.
that's the math side of things. But I think, as I said, it's a little bit lost in the service world sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of that meme. If it takes me 15 minutes to do something, you're not paying me for the 15 minutes. You're paying me for the 15 years of experience that I have that got me
Yeah,
to a point where I can solve your problem in 15 minutes.
yeah,
That's what
exactly.
you're paying for is the years, not the minutes.
Exactly. But we're working off of an old blueprint of
Mhm.
like although we've kind of gone through a digital revolution in terms of technical capability of businesses, we haven't gone through a huge digital revolution in terms of pricing, working capabilities, and all that kind of stuff. We're still, to a degree, there's a lot of businesses still operating on the industrial revolution pricing, right? Which was time, like product pricing, time, value, money.
Yeah.
And we haven't fully evolved. Like it is evolving, and I can see it where, people charge not per hour, more value they bring, but it's not as straightforward for people to compute, for people to comprehend. And we haven't really gone through what I believe to be the digital revolution when it comes to businesses and how they need to operate and I think we're in it right
Mm.
now is what's happening. And that's why conversations around pricing like this are so useful to
Yeah.
understand that I know, and you're all going to hate me for saying that there's no blueprint to figure out your pricing because we are going through an evolution. We're going through a change. And the old equations just don't stack up. So you need to understand the value that you're bringing,
Yeah.
and the customer is going to be the best person to tell you whether or not what you're offering is worth what you're asking.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to throw in the marketing message. Am I communicating this clearly enough so that people value what I'm doing? That's a whole other conversation that we will continue
For another
another
day.
day. Yeah, exactly. So, let's say we've figured out a price that we want to test
Yeah.
and we put it out there. Maybe we put it on our website
Yeah.
and we get some sales calls. Everybody
Mhm.
says yes. Every call is a yes. What is that telling us about our price, Karen?
It means we're damn good at sales calls. No, a little bit of that. The price is too low. Inevitably, when people are just saying yes, it's like it's a no-brainer. And while we want no-brainers for maybe like your lead magnet or your initial offering, we don't necessarily want like no-brainers and 100% close rate, which I know is going to blow people's minds, but 100% close rate means that your price is too low because it's like you're offering too much value
Yeah.
for the price that you're asking for, right?
Yeah. And what's going to happen there is you're going to end up with resentment because they're not paying enough. You're over delivering, you're giving them so much value. And then you realize I didn't charge enough. And then you kind of get resentful. And that is, nobody wants to be in that position. So I like to kind of sell three offers, and then raise the price
Mm-hmm.
based on how many conversations I'm having. But I'll go with something like that. I'll sell three, raise the price, and sit with that price for a while and see, am I getting enough yeses? Am I getting enough nos? Do I feel good about that before I raise again? That's kind of been my approach. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's a solid approach because you're consistently changing, you're consistently evolving, and I think that one of the one of the biggest mindset shifts that need to happen when it comes to pricing is that it's not like you set your price and that's it for life.
Yeah, you can change it.
Like unfortunately though, because a lot of my clients hate this process.
Yeah. It's painful.
The reason both you and I have work is that people don't want to figure out the pricing.
Yeah, I know.
And it does seem to be like a painful process for many, and because of the mindset blocks, because of the things that are involved when it comes to pricing. But
Yeah.
to evaluate it consistently and to review it regularly is important. So you raising, you know, every so often and still continuing to test the market, especially if, like we say, if you're getting 100% close rate,
Yeah.
put it up, see what
Yeah,
happens, right? It's unlikely that you're going to shift it that far that it's going to go from 100% to 0%. Like that would be that,
exactly.
but it might go from 100% to 75% to 50%, depending on how you flex it. Uh, Testing and evolving that can make your life easier because you're not then resentful of the prices that you are, like, giving, because you're giving too much value away. So
Yeah, yeah.
I like the way that you said it.
And eventually you'll get to that point where you feel really good about it, your clients feel good, everybody's happy, and you can stay there. And then eventually you look at it, like you're saying, to make sure that the price is still reflecting the value that you're giving. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I-
And when I first heard this, like, close rate conversation, it just killed me. I was so proud of my 90% close rate. And then I was like, oh no, this means I need to look at my money mindset and I need to raise my prices. Yeah.
Yeah. The money mindset thing is a killer. And a lot of founders, a lot of business owners that I've come across, they're not aware of what's blocking them in
Mm.
that area. But for sure, it's when people don't flinch, right? Like when you say, "Oh, this is my hourly rate," or "This is my retainer," when people go, "Yeah, sure." It's I'm either sitting there going like, "Okay, you're definitely my ideal client because you clearly have money to burn," or I'm sitting there going, "Oh, okay, okay, okay. I went too low." Like,
Yeah.
it's a simple. There's an element in pricing we haven't talked about yet, which is supply demand, right? So
Mhm.
a brilliant thing that freelancers can do or service oriented businesses can do is, if you're really busy, you can hike your prices, right?
Yeah.
I've seen I've seen software developers do this really well, where say they're busy with some other project, but something comes in, they don't really want to do the project, right? It's not a fun project for them. It's not a good client, whatever the reason is, they don't really want to do it. So they almost like double, triple their price for this
Yeah,
particular contract, right?
I
Because
love that.
I don't know, and I actually like definitely men that did this, by the way, but like should be done by women. But it's a brilliant tactic to try to to see, and I've seen them land contracts at like triple the rate that they would normally, just because they obviously like were in demand, the people needed it, and yeah, technically they have capacity, technically, but like now they're working extra to get this done, and it's really only worth like if they know they're sacrificing maybe the balanced lifestyle that they had built up, for
Yeah.
example. Maybe they were going to take a couple weeks off, and now this project's come in. They're like, oh, well, if you pay me like triple, then I'll do it. So all of a sudden they're getting 50K for a 3 week. I don't know.
Yeah.
These are made up numbers, but for like a 3 week project, instead of taking time off, but it's worth it for them.
Yeah.
So that's where another tactic that can be used, that's like, when demand is really high for you in your time, is think about how you can augment your prices at that point, because it's similar to what you're saying on the close rate,
Mhm.
because it's obvious that if so many people are coming to you and so many people are demanding your time, then maybe you need to increase your prices, because obviously your marketing and your price, like your value proposition and what you're offering is coming through really well, and maybe your branding and your marketing. And then you need to be charging more because you're in bigger demand.
Yeah.
Because
It,
the market doesn't regulate itself, you have to regulate it. Like supply and demand works on the grander economy scale, but in our little circumference, we need to control the supply and demand. When you see there's so many people coming in, you go, okay, I'm going to triple my price for this particular person.
yeah.
And
But it's not like that's going to be an easy gig. Like there's a reason that you raise the price. You're sacrificing something, and that sacrifice needs to be compensated.
yeah, exactly. Not It's not like an abusive pricing
No.
or abusive pricing hike. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sacrificing sleep, right? For example.
Yeah.
So, or maybe you're a freelancer or a service or operating business that you only work 4 days a week, right? Your fifth day of the week is for you, your projects, other stuff. Or even I've seen a lot of solopreneurs, solo freelancers who they do everything on their own, right?
Yeah.
Don't delegate anything to anyone. So they always have like maybe a day, day and a half a week where they have to do the bookkeeping in their business, or the marketing in their business, the social media in their business, right? To sacrifice that piece, they either need to hire somebody in to make sure that that's still happening to get that time for the new client, or they actually stop doing that stuff for the temporary time, like 3 months, which
Yeah.
I would argue is not a good idea, because you stop your marketing. It's a cycle for what's like going down the drain. But
Yeah.
with it's thinking about what you're giving up to take on this contract, and I think that that can look very different for very many people. But if you're feeling uncomfortable about taking on a contract because you're so busy, set the price higher to
Yeah.
what you think. Like, what do you want to earn for that time? What is the value that's going to bring to you? Like, what's going to make you want to do it?
Hmm. That's the question. What's the price that's going to make you want to do that work? Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. A lot of people come to me and ask if they should put their pricing on their website. And that is always another conversation. And unfortunately, a lot of times my answer is to test. Try putting the price on your website for 6 months and
Mhm.
see what kind of clients you get, what kind of work you get, how that works out for you. And then take the price off for 6 months. And then you're giving kind of variable pricing to people based on what it
Yeah.
looks like they can pay or what the project is going to be.
Yeah.
How do you feel about pricing on the website? I think it's something you have to test with your market, but it's a tricky one.
As a customer, I love
Yep.
pricing on the website. I
Yep.
visibly hate having to find out, and it
Hmm.
makes me a customer of that person, of that product, of that business if I don't know what it is that I'm like having to pay, if I have to go through multiple calls until I figure it out.
Yeah.
So from a customer standpoint, I don't like it if the pricing isn't on the website. However, pricing is not on my website. So
Right. Because it changes for different projects. I mean, sometimes there's a
so
reason.
it changes for different projects. There's been a lot of inflation lately, um and I'm not incredibly good at keeping my website up to date, for example.
Mhm.
And also because I deal with the US and the UK, and the pricing is somewhat different across those two territories because the US market is very different from the UK market and the European market. And it's an element of not wanting to lend confusion to it by my prices on my website. And it also gives me that flex um, of projects, because projects for me are defined by the scope and what we're actually delivering and the value. And with having any kind of project price on my website is going to set people an expectation that most likely won't be fulfilled if they have this scope that's like, you might as well hire me as a fractional CFO because you want everything within
Yeah.
this one project. So I think it's a good idea, what you said in terms of testing one or the other. I think it's as we've said, it's great responsibility to review your pricing regularly. So maybe you do that every 6 months by doing
Hmm.
that equation where you put it on the website for 6 months, you review it every 6 months. Like, I mean, I think that's 6 months is for a small business, it makes sense. But because the world is moving rapidly in
Yeah.
terms of pricing, like 6 months could mean that you're pricing yourself out.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe it's
or
quarterly. You said it for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think quarterly is a good thing, and you test with the website if you want it on or if you don't. And I yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a range. It's actually I'd be interested to know if anyone on LinkedIn has pricing communicated.
Like, right. It's a good question. Or if you do a range, like you said, I've seen people do that. Yeah, this is a tricky one to put the price on the website or not to. I think it depends on what you're offering. If you're offering a thing,
Mm.
they want to know what that is going to cost. But if you're offering consulting or some kind of service that is flexible and bespoke, then
Yeah.
the pricing is going to be different for things like that.
Yeah, I like a good happy medium that I have on like some of my profiles and places is like prices start from X per hour, for
Yep.
example, or per project or X retainer. Like if I were to put on my website, which I'm supposed to be updating soon, if I were to put on my website, it would be that. It would be
Mm.
prices start from this per hour, this per project, this per retainer. So at least they know the starting point, because I think that that helps from like in the conflict that I have as me as a consumer versus me as a business owner
Yeah,
is a consumer that at least gives me a gauge of, oh, can I even afford the minimum? Right? Like if is it worth even having a call with her if I can't afford the minimum, or that's
that's
not
it.
going to my business. Now, I have free intro calls for everyone. So it doesn't mean that they can't have a conversation with me where I give them a recommendation on either how they can work with me or a different solution for what they actually need within their finance department at that time. However, I think having that starter can work for a lot of service-based organizations.
Yeah, I agree. I like that starts at. I think that's fair for everybody.
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing conversation. Let's wrap it up. Let's talk about brand, bank, build.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
brand, the messaging takeaway from this episode, I think, is to ask your customers, do research, look at the market, Test it. Test it with your customers.
Yeah, that's definitely the brand takeaway that we had today. And for the bank takeaway, like, what did we say about the numbers? We need to look at the close rate. As we said, if it's 100%, your pricing is too low. And have a look at the math, right? See how much you want to earn, what the value is that you're bringing, how you feel about the price that you're actually selling yourself at.
That's it. For build, how to apply what we've learned today, what we've talked about. You find what works best for you. You need both. You need to cover your costs, but you also need to know what people are willing to pay. So that's how we build. We balance these things.
Yeah. Brand, bank, and build. All three.
That's
That's
it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen. This was so fun.
Yeah. I really enjoyed our conversation today on pricing. Hopefully, it helps some of you in the audience today. And yeah, we'll see you next time here on Brand Bank Build. Look forward to the next conversation, Terra.
Me too. That was a great wrap up on how to brand bank build your business. Connect with us on LinkedIn for more insights and let us know what resonates with you and what you want to hear in future episodes. We'll put all of our information in the show notes and we look forward to connecting with you.